So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first MBA Club event for the semester. My name is Khadija Tari, and I'm thrilled to be your host today. We are incredibly fortunate to have Professor Larry Albin, a highly accomplished professional and a senior partner at Deloitte Consulting for most of his career. Professor Albin will be sharing insights about his upcoming full course, Leading Digital Transformations, and discussing the nuance of steering large-scale, technology-driven transformation programs. Let's extend a warm welcome to Professor Albin.
Thank you. Okay, nice to see everybody. This will be the second semester that I teach this course, and this course was the idea of Professor Anthony Farina, who's here. He and I started talking about this, probably a year ago. And the idea was to try to capture a lot of the experiences that I've had in my career into a course that I would design. And we spent some time working on this course together, and we had it last spring, and it went very well. The feedback was very
good. Freezing up. We ran last spring.
I'm frozen? Am I frozen?
No, I don't think so. No.
You're okay now.
Okay now. Okay. Okay. Let me just give a brief background of my career and kind of the things that and emphasize, what led me to having passion around this particular topic, and how I'm bringing as much of my experience into the course as possible. After my MBA at Columbia, I started at Bankers Trust, and I spent a few years there working, designing, and implementing various different services and products at the bank. And I first got involved in developing a front end for the client services group, which really got me interested in how do you make businesses more digital and create better customer experiences with technology. After 5 years in consulting at A.T. Kearney, I was recruited to go into Lehman Brothers, where my job was very much following up on the things that I just described that I did at Bankers Trust. It was building Lehman Brothers front end for their institutional client business, which we called Lehman Live, and that was really making all of the Lehman Brothers business digital, and pushing all that digital business out to our clients. So everything that we did with our clients, we could now do digitally, not just based on relationships. And that allowed us to really provide a different tier of service to our clients, and to really push a lot of our products and services out via the web, right when the web was starting to explode in the early 2000s. I went to Deloitte. I was at Deloitte for 14 years, spent a lot of time thinking about and working through technology transformation efforts that span multiple years, and focusing on how to make the businesses more technology driven, more digital, and that really is the experience that I've captured into this course. So I did want to give an overview, because I think that my experience is important when you're considering, is this a course that would be interesting to you? Okay. I'm going to share the syllabus, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the course, what we're trying to accomplish. And then I think, Khadija, you're going to ask me some questions, correct?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. So
later. And between brackets, we will also allocate 15 minutes to 20 minutes at the end for other students to ask their questions directly to you. But feel free to write on the chat your questions now or during the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So the first line of this is very important, of the course description, because I really did want to build this course to teach students practical skills and techniques in managing large and complex digital transformation programs. And so, the idea is that as much as I am able, I've designed in various different consulting processes and techniques that I used to use throughout my career, and building a process for teaching those techniques to students. And so, if you're interested in a career in consulting, I think that this course will really support you well in terms of your goals and objectives. because you'll really get a good understanding of what it means to do a large scale, complex consulting project. And in fact, your final project will be putting together a consulting multi-year plan, which I will help you design. So that's kind of where the things are going. As this says, digital transformations are multifaceted, and most fail because of a lack of leadership and planning. And so this course is going to focus on looking at all the various aspects of what a digital transformation requires leaders to focus in on, and then help students drive out a plan to address all those things concurrently. And so what this will help students do is examine a way to lead a transformation and design new business models, addressing technology that supports the business, and then all the various different things that are part of these different dimensions: talent, business processes, the business case, leadership, organizational change, and digital strategy. And so, all the things that are listed here are things that we will go through week by week. And then as we build the final organization, the final transformation roadmap, we'll bring all those things together into an overall plan. And so, the idea would be to, think about the business strategy and how that's enabled by technology tools and digital tools. Because at the end of the day, this is less about the technology and more about the business itself. We're going to focus on the business model, what it means to enable and develop and roll out new products and services, and really how to drive an overall transformation program that is not just about technology change, but it's about business transformation. And we're going to get a lot into execution, because I found in my career that the more you can get down into the details of execution, the more effective you are with your clients. Okay, so some of the learning goals to include here are, helping students to develop competencies to lead large and complex digital transformations, identify the key components that we just went through, but in more detail, of a digital transformation, frame current capabilities, and then structure a program to address the gaps that you come up with, address organizational change requirements and considerations, and also to think about what it means to lead with a digital mindset, and then designing and implementing a successful transformation roadmap, which will be a multi-year program. And as I said, that'll be your final project. So, just to show you the way the course is structured, there are 6 modules over 14 weeks. And those modules include introduction to enterprise digital strategy, and a couple weeks around what it means to be digital, and then building an enterprise digital strategy, rethinking the business model, and building digital processes and technical capabilities to support a new business model, leadership, organizational change, building a transformation roadmap. So the roadmap brings it all together, including a business case. And so, we'll learn each of these aspects week to week, including some examples in the readings and all the readings. There's no text in this course. It's all Harvard Business Review readings that I've selected, that I think drive each of these modules home and help you learn these different areas. But of course, the most important part is how to bring it all together and manage a roadmap that touches all these things concurrently. Okay. So I'm not going to go through all the readings. I just wanted to go through mostly the way the course is structured. Back to that, I think that, when you think about digital transformation, you have to touch on all these various aspects concurrently. That you can't do any of these things in isolation. You need to think about the overall business strategy and how digital technologies supports a change in business strategy. So we're also going to introduce Porter's 5 forces model, but in the context of a digital business strategy, not just an overall business strategy. You need to rethink the business model and what the business model means and all the components of that. You need to think about both process changes and technology changes. You need to think about new products and services, which we go through in the business model section. And then leadership and organizational culture are also something we're going to address in design. So that's a really quick summation of the course. I don't want to sit and drone on. I want to really open this up to questions and hear what you're thinking about the course. And then, Khadija developed and created a bunch of really interesting questions that she's going to fire at me for anything that I just didn't cover in my short introduction. So let me stop sharing, and I can pull that back if we need to. But Khadija, you want to ask me some questions, and then we'll open it up to the group for questions?
Yes, very quickly, Professor. So what are, from your experience, what have been some pivotal moments that significantly shaped your understanding of digital transformation? Since you mentioned earlier that, for example, when you were at Lehman Brothers, it was the beginning of digital transformation, and you witnessed this.
So look, I've been working in technology and banking for 30 years, and a lot of the things that happen are the same themes recreating and getting, when you talk about transformation driven by technology, the technology is changing, and it's becoming comprehensively giving business the ability to build and develop newer and newer capabilities. And so, but they're very much recurring themes that happen, throughout, the life cycle of my career, at least. The 90s, a big focus was on business reengineering, and now that's more about process design. But a lot of that's enabled by new technologies. And one of the things that I learned early on at Bankers Trust was the more that you can push the technology out to the client and let the client self-serve and build the capabilities for a client to do a lot of the things themselves, the more successful it's going to be your customer service model. And that's the way things have really evolved. I mean, look how much we do on our phone today. I mean, that was not around when I first started. I mean, it was all, front end portals and really clunky ways for clients to access functionality. But, as it's become more and more accessible at our fingertips, things have become more and more digital because you can do so much. Your experience on an iPhone and on a Galaxy or whatever is your device of choice, it builds expectations to be able to do many transactions at the touch of at the touch of the phone. And that's the way we were always trying to build things earlier on, that have really, really gotten much more advanced and sophisticated in the last 10 years.
And according to you, what are the skills that the most critical skills that a leader needs to have in order to be part of a successful digital transformation?
Well, I'll tell you for myself, I have I have an MBA from Columbia. I have a second master's in organizational change, and I'm also a CPA. And all those things all play a part in me designing multi-year transformations. You need to look at the financials. You need to understand what's the business impact and be able to measure the business impact of a transformation program. And so one of the things that I stress to my students is being able to measure the effects of the initiatives that you come up with. It's being able to frame change initiatives that have that sort of business impact in an overall strategic context. So understanding strategy is very important in the impact you're going to have on the strategy, by new capabilities that you're going to introduce, and then being able to lead all those and then of course, what's a large technology change program? How do you manage a large technology change program to be able to deliver it over time effectively and successfully? And then how's the work delivered is also a part that I've been very focused on in my career. How do you bring all that together into a multi-dimensional roadmap? As you can see, it can be very complicated. You're looking at strategy, you're looking at business model, you're looking at financials, you're looking at the technology capabilities, you're looking at organizational and business process capabilities. And then you're trying to be an effective leader to be able to orchestrate and manage all that. So I think all those things can be very challenging. And if you don't think about it holistically, then you might do one of the components very effectively, but you're leaving something on the table that's going to ultimately end up affecting the success of the project and the change effort.
And if I can add to you what you're saying, is I too did a lot of transformation work at Citigroup. And at the time, we were 350,000 employees in over 100 countries. One of the principal challenges that someone leading transformation is going to face is resistance.
That's right.
People do not want like change. And I cannot tell you how many conversations I had with people in London, in Brussels, in Hong Kong, in anyway, in lots of places, Budapest, Mexico City. Why do I have to do this? And the very straightforward answer was because we can't run a company this big on spreadsheets. And when you have multiple businesses in country and you're in, Lord knows how many different kinds of businesses, and the CEO wants to know where are the people, what do they do, and how much does it cost me? You can't do that on spreadsheets. And it's very challenging. I was also involved in moving things out of London to Dublin and Budapest and Manila. And you can guess why. And I can tell you that the people in Budapest their arms were open. We're happy to have it, bring it in, like the job, like the opportunity, wanted a chance to contribute and make money. But when you get to somebody who's down in Fort Lauderdale or Austin, Texas, or Nevada, or good Lord, North Dakota, they don't see the whole picture that you can see or that I could see. So one of the things you need to be prepared for, and this is why we stress the importance of interpersonal skills, is you're going to have to convince people to go along with what you want to do, even though they may not report to you. But you may well be held accountable for getting it done.
It's a really, really important set of considerations. We focus on organizational change and we focus on culture. And when you're touching those parts of an organization, all the things that Professor Farina just described are going to affect the effort. And if you don't think through how to really sensitively manage those points of resistance and the need to address personal requirements and needs of the workers, you're not going to be able to be successful. Organizational resistance has affected every consulting project I've ever done, and needing to address that and how do you address that in the plan that you develop has got to be a big consideration. And I keep stressing the plan because I want to just remind everyone that the final project is developing a multidimensional plan for a company that you choose around a digital transformation that you will, develop the idea on your own. So that's what we do that in teams, and it gives you a really good opportunity to get hands-on experience in building a transformation plan and roadmap.
So, Professor, relating to this point, the teams, are they changing or no?
I believe that we set the teams. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
I divide into teams early on, and there are a few individual exercises, but a lot of the work is done in teams. I want the teams to be able to, and the way I think about it is more and more of the work throughout the semester leads to the final project. I want it to build cumulatively, and I want people to be motivated to learn each of the individual areas so they can bring it together in the end. So that's why it's important, I think, to put together the team structure early and have people work in teams.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most challenging, elements of any project.
Yeah,
is for the team to be willing to understand and be working with other people different, not necessarily with the same mindset,
right,
but to focus on the the common objective that they have.
I tell you, my class last semester, I didn't see anybody who didn't pull their weight in the teams. Everybody was motivated and contributed in really, really positive and unique ways. So I think it's a really good experience.
Yeah, we have today some of your students from last year, and I also had comments and recommendations from other students when they saw the event. They talked to me and they told me that they had actually a great time with you last year during this class. Yeah, for this course.
Professor Farina, that's good news.
It's good news indeed.
Okay.
And
Not that I'm,
oh,
not that I'm surprised. I expected that, but it's nice to hear it. Validation.
Very nice to hear it. I appreciate that. Thank you.
sure. So according to what you talked about like the skills, the crucial skills that any leader should have to to be part of a successful digital transformation. Today, now, what is for you the sectors or the industries that will go through this digital transformation inevitably for the 5 to 10 years to come? The
I
next
mean,
5 to 10 years.
honestly, I don't think there's a sector out there that is not going to have an impact from digital technologies and become more digital. I mean, I've been in financial services, which has been a leading sector for many years because banks invest a lot of money in technology and they want to make their client experiences, they're competing on their ability to please their clients. But I've also been working a lot in education, and education's changing. My students last semester did projects on a hospital, on a retail business. So it's really a matter of how do you think about what the customer value proposition is, and then how can you improve that and change the experience with digital technologies, and that affects everything.
Yeah. And so what was my question? I forgot. I
That's
had
okay. Go. You had a really long list. I'm sure we didn't work through that whole list yet.
Okay, we can jump to another one. So just
Okay.
to
I have a question, Professor Albin. Before I came to your session, I did some preparation and I looked into what are the best practices, who has done an actual digital transformation. And I found that Estonia offers e-citizenship. So you can become an Estonian citizen basically online without even living there. And you can open a business in Estonia online, and it's all done within minutes, and everything is so simple. Filing your taxes takes like 15 or 20 minutes. Everything is done digitally, and I found that was very, very impressive to me, because in the United States, like every time we have to file taxes, we have to fill out the same information, we have to spend a lot of time. Some people even have to hire an accountant to do all that stuff because they don't know how to do that. So hearing all those things, it was fascinating for me. And I wanted to ask you, do you know any businesses in the United States who actually had undergone the digital transformation, and who would be your favorite?
Well, I mean, look at the story of Apple. I mean, it's just an incredible story, which we talk about some in class. I mean, look at where they were in the 80s and the 90s and where they are today. It's a beautiful example of a digital transformation. I mean, they have leveraged digital technologies to create new products and new services. And one of the things that Steve Jobs was known for, and what he always said was, I don't want to create products what the customer wants. I want to create a product that the customer doesn't even know they want that yet. And he did that. Imagine, I mean, who can imagine that so many people, billions of people around the world have iPhones, and that didn't even exist 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I think it's an incredible example. I think that I did a lot of work in my last 5 years at the Deloitte with, leveraging cloud technology with Amazon. I was interfaced with Amazon Web Services. And I think that we talk about the cloud in the class because being able to store all the data and then being able to apply analytics and machine learning to the data is a critical part of a business model to become, more digital, is because a lot of what we'll talk about in class is the insights you need to develop around your customers, and how do you develop those insights, and how do you leverage customer data, and how do you build those sorts of capabilities. And so I think Amazon's a great example of a company that began building infrastructure for their own Amazon website, and was able to develop new products and services, and then export that as a whole new business called Amazon Web Services. So there's an example. But I mean, I could talk about many various examples. I mean, the things that banks are doing to become more digital are very interesting. And then some of the digital banks that are being developed, and some of the fintech services. So I mean, that's a really I could talk for a while about different businesses and what they do, and those are the kinds of things that we will explore in the class.
The other thing I might throw in here is the Federal Reserve System has got to figure out a better way to manage what used to be runs on a bank. As you probably all know about Silicon Valley Bank. I'll tell you a little story that you might find interesting, and that is, I know someone who she has her own business in California. She's an entrepreneur, and she belongs to something called the YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization. It's been around for a very long time. And she was in a chat room on Thursday morning with about 200 other people, much like her. And one of them said to the others, you know, you really ought to take your money out of Silicon Valley Bank. And before you know it, you had a couple of hundred people who had millions with SVB, and immediately started pulling money out of the bank with their digital accounts. Now, you in essence had an e-run on the banking system. Her husband, who has his own investment business, was in Madrid. And so he was like 6 hours behind what was already going on in the United States. Now, in the old days, right, you could close the bank. And you could simply say, we're taking a holiday. You close the banks and people can't get at their money. You can't do that today. So even the regulators have to deal with this whole business of digitalization. And while it's got a lot of benefits, it also has some risks to it. And there's a real example. And before you know it, Silicon Valley Bank was out of business. Now, there are a lot of other things that played into their liquidity problems, which are beyond this discussion. But to underscore Larry's point, sometimes you get unintended consequences of something that you start off doing to better serve your customers.
To answer your question?
Nico, did that
Yes,
answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, it was great. I appreciate it. Yes.
You probably
Okay.
got more than you asked for.
Yeah, well, hopefully. Who else has got a question? Those are good questions, and you're all thinking, which is great.
Thank you. I would ask one question. What kind of career opportunities can arise for students who specialize in digital transformation?
Well, first of all, we go through a lot of consulting process in my course. So, you know, I think that the original motivation that I had in designing the course was because I wanted to share a lot of the experiences that I've built through years of working as a consultant for many, many big companies. And I bring those stories in throughout the course. So consulting, clearly, I think the course prepares you for and teaches you more about what a career consulting means and what to expect, and if it feels like something that you would enjoy. I thought a career consulting was the best choice I could make because I love learning new things, and you're constantly thrown into new situations in consulting, and you have to figure your way out, and I love that. So we'll go a lot into that. I think that product development is something that I did at Lehman, and that for 5 years I was the head of product development in equities. So we talk a lot about developing and rolling out new products and new capabilities. So product management, which is a very hot area right now. And then I think business strategy. I think that if you want to be a strategist, there isn't anybody who's doing business strategy that these things aren't impacting. So overall business strategy is very much tied to a digital strategy and vice versa. And marketing.
Marketing too, yes.
We talk a lot about getting the word out on new products and services, and how do you do that using digital capabilities.
That's great. And could you give some advice to students about what they should focus on while studying digital transformation? And
you know, I'm gonna give you an answer. They asked former President Obama a couple months ago, what would you tell young people? I don't know if anybody saw this. I thought it was very interesting. His answer was, learn how to get stuff done. That was his answer. Very simple. And I think that in this course, you're going to learn how to actually manage and plan and execute a business transformation. You're going to learn how to get something done, which is what I always focused on in my career. So I think that that's a very important set of skills.
Yeah. I mean, very excellent answer. I'm like astonished.
Yeah, I
Swati,
think
am I pronounced? Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Nico.
I was gonna tell, I think Swati had a question, so then.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Hi, Professor. So nice
Hi there.
to be on this call and learn so much from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I am an MS student, MS in finance, but I have an MBA also, and I have 5 years of experience in banking, corporate banking, and wholesale banking, transformation only. So it was everything as small as digitization of form, digitizing a form to, you know, as you were saying, creating a front end for customers to raise their requests for international finance products. So I was very excited to know about the event and I had to join. Also, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to register for this course. Uh, uh, but anyway, I'm gonna ask my questions.
Well,
So
if there's a specific issue that we can address, just drop myself or Professor Farina an email. All right.
right. So I'm not sure whether MS students are, they can choose the subject. I'm not sure. I'll check.
What kind of students?
Well,
Master of Science. So
she's getting an MS in finance, and this we're creating a little disruption here, and I think it's wonderful. If you want to take this course based on what you heard, you let Professor Albin and me know, and I will go to whoever I have to go to talk about that, because I know this is coming up. MS students hear about the consulting course, and they're also, and this is one of the reasons we're doing this, and I'm sorry, I don't want to talk too much, but I do have a reason for wanting to do this afternoon, and that is I want you guys to understand that we're doing stuff, and that you need to know about it. And this course is one of them. You go online and you look at BUS 9797 special topics. That doesn't tell you a darn thing about what this course is. But you sit here and you listen to Professor Albin, who's done this as for a living and done it very well with some very well-known companies. And you go, maybe he knows something that I don't, and this might be worth doing. And so I'm sort of willing to float the idea with whomever. If MS students hear about this and they want to take this class, if you've taken CIS 9000 or you have comparable experience, that's something we should look into. I can't make promises I can't keep, but I'm certainly very happy with your interest.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Drop us a note to both Professor Farina and myself, and just tell us that you want to take it and why you want to take it, and we'll see what we can do.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll do that.
Also,
Thank you.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I have a background and I have worked in something similar. But my question is, after being on the business side and working on projects which involve technology. So there's a technology side and there's a business side usually. And from what I have seen, the SMEs and on the business side don't have so much knowledge about the technology part. For instance, a technical project manager is very much different from even a product manager at times in banking. So what do you think of what are the kind of skills that you think a person with a little experience develop and should focus on, whether it is technology or business, or they should be well versed with both to actually succeed in a consulting role?
It's a really good question. Look, I spent my whole career in an area that I would call liaison between business and technology. Sometimes I was on the business side. At Lehman Brothers, I reported up through the business. in equities, but I manage the whole technology team, meaning I manage products getting built.
Right.
They're the most successful projects that I did at Citibank, at Lehman, at Deutsche Bank, and others that I can think of, always involve people from both the technology side and the business side. You can't do a technology project without having the business involved, for a number of different reasons that we'll get into in the course. But suffice to say that if you understand the business that you're working in and the issues that they deal with, you're going to be much more effective at leading technology projects, because you'll understand the things that concern them, and that might disrupt their business, and that they're very risk averse about. And in managing the resistance that Professor Farina was talking about before, understanding the business issues is critical. So, I would suggest that learning skills on both sides of the equation is extremely important. And people that can talk technology to business folks in a way that business people understand without going over their head, and people that can talk the business issues to technology people, those people are very valuable. If you can, in many cases, you're becoming a translator to help different folks understand what's happening on both sides.
Yeah, and and in terms of building what I call building a franchise, is when you're in a leadership position, you don't tell people what they're going to do. You don't dictate. It's a really good idea to enlist their support by saying, here's what's been laid out in front of us, and here's how we have to get there. What do you think we ought to do that? What do you need to sign on to this? And where are you getting resistance? And where can we help you? Because sometimes, when people resist change, it's not just because they don't want to do it. That's part of it. But there may be political reasons or even very good business reasons why not to do it.
That's right.
And I think it's particularly important when you talk about complexity, multi-products, building scale, interface, connectivity, all the buzzwords you want. And I cannot stress Larry's point enough, because I was in the liaison role. You have to be able to speak English. You have to tell people without using 50-cent words why you're doing what you're doing, and have them understand it and go, so I don't have to do that anymore. I can do this instead. Yes. Oh, well, that's going to save me a lot of time. That's what we're trying to do. He makes a very, very good point.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. I think we have another student with a question. Gonzalo, feel free to ask a question.
Yes, hi, thank you. My question is if this course is going to be offered next spring as well?
It's the first time that we've thought about it.
Well, I'll tell you how it's going. If we get enough interest in this class, and the word gets out, and I can convince Professor Albin to do it, we'll offer it in the spring. We started it as a special topics course. And all right, so this is sort of a good lead in to a little bit more for your information by way of background. Some of you may know that I direct the business consulting activity at the business school, and all the MBA candidates have to take consulting in order to get their degree. We're also teaching consulting to undergraduate operations majors, which, after what Professor Albin's already told you, should be a dull moment for you. Get things done. And what we did a year ago is I was asked by the dean's office, when Dean Huss was still here, to investigate whether we ought to offer a concentration in management consulting. Now, as you know, the business school does not offer a major. And so I can't very well come out and say we're offering a major in management consulting. But in fact, what we are doing is putting in place building blocks for students who want to go into consulting, to help them do that. And we're doing that in a couple of ways. One is by offering a course like this one, Leading Digital Transformation, which is the direct result of benchmarking that a team and I did last summer, which Larry was part of. We talked with over 30 professional consultants from everywhere, McKinsey, Alex Partners, PwC, Deloitte, Accenture, you name it. We covered the whole panoply of firms. And there was a recurrent theme that kept coming up. One of them was digital transformation. Another one was comfort with mining big data, ability to manipulate databases and turn them into something useful for their clients. So our conclusion at the end of our work, which was the end of the summer, was we're going to offer a course on leading digital transformation. And we're going to, run it as a special topics. And it was done last spring, as we started mentioned when we started this call, and it was very successful. In addition to that, we are also offering a number of workshops, and many of you should have received an email from Justin Makarevich about something called Management Consulted, which you have to sign up for, and it's going to be offered the week of August 25th. And I took it, and what it does is it prepares you for interviews where you're given a case. And more employers are using the case as a way to evaluate employees. We are going to offer that and a number of other workshops as a way to enhance what you learn in business school that prepares you to interview, but also if you're interested in consulting as a next step, to prepare you to go into consulting. And so tell your friends, tell your best bud, tell the people you drink with, tell everybody. This course is open, and we want to keep it, we want to make it a regular part of the curriculum because it's a very useful course. And we do have a methodology here. We're putting things in, and as you know, we have a new dean. And so one of the things that I have to do as the program leader is meet with the dean and figure out what his interests are and agenda. But I can tell you that more and more students are raising their hand and saying, I want to go into consulting. And our students are going to places that traditionally have not recruited at Baruch, like McKinsey and BCG.
And Deloitte.
And Deloitte and PwC. So there is a lot of opportunity, and I'll say one more thing and then I'll quiet down. And that is, even if you're not sure what you want to do, and you don't know that consulting is something you want to pursue as a career, I can tell you from personal experience, because that's how I started my business career. I was clueless. But I got hired by a very small, rather prestigious consulting firm that was an in-house HR counsel, if you will, to the oil industry. And I learned things in those first 4 years in a consulting firm that I never would have learned if I'd taken an entry-level job at a big company and had to work my way up and so forth. The kinds of things that you learn in consulting are going to be invaluable, and they will be transferable. You will use those skills throughout your entire career. And to be clear, many people who go into the prestigious strategy firms, most of them don't make partner. All right. But they end up going to very good companies with great jobs. And I'm seeing nods here. So you know what I'm talking about. So it's a really good way to get very, very good foundational experience that it capitalizes on what we're teaching you here at Zicklin to prepare you for your career.
And I'll add on to that if you're interested in career consulting, you're going to get a really good understanding of what consultants do in my course. And I think it'll prepare you both for a career, but even for the recruiting process.
Thank
And
you.
Thank
you know,
you
you can go to I don't care, any size company you want, but you'll know how to get things done. You'll know how to manage people. You'll know how to think through problems, come up with alternatives that work. And then if you join a big company, you could very well end up being an internal consultant.
Right.
Which can be a little bit easier on the one hand, because you don't have to, you're not out there selling business every day like you would as if you were a partner. On the other hand, it can also be tricky because if you're not any good at it, you could end up being fired. But nonetheless, it's a very useful set of skills that we're teaching, Larry and I and a couple of others.
Yeah, and we're gonna learn these skills, and then you're gonna get a chance to exercise these skills.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Professor Albin, Professor Farina, thank you very much for such a profound insight and a comprehensive insight into the world of digital transformation and consulting. We would take quickly a question from Tenzin. I'm pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm a recent graduate, and I was wondering, will I be still eligible to take the course, or I have to be an MBA student?
Are you an undergrad or master's?
Undergrad, but I'm graduated.
Oh, you graduated.
Yes.
So the question is, can you take this course if you're not enrolled in a master's program?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something you need to talk to someone in graduate programs about. I'm not really able to speak to that, although I can see value in having people do what you want to do, even if it's on an audit basis.
Right. Right.
Thank you. And if you would like, if you send me your email, I will connect you with somebody in graduate programs that can talk to you about that.
Thank you. I would love to do that. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Happy to do it.
Sure. Everyone who is interested in staying in contact with Professor Albin and Professor Farina, just DM me and I will give you their email addresses.
Other questions?
Hey, Professor, I have a question. I'm Justin McMillan. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this.
Thanks.
Professor Farina gave me a tease of this talk earlier today, and I was excited to learn more. My question's more broadly, with technology moving so fast, I feel like every 3 years there's a new, hot innovation. How do we, decipher the smoke and mirrors of it all? Because every couple of years it was crypto, and now it's AI, and then what's the next thing, and how do we as business people evaluate and know this is actually going to provide value, and what is something to say, let's wait and see?
Well, I mean, it's a great question, and there's no easy answer, but I can tell you that one of the things that we're going to focus on is, where does the technology provide measurable business value? You're not just building technology because it's cool or because it's hot in the market, but it actually has an impact on the capabilities that provide business value that you can measure. And I think that if you can hit those things, you can build a business case that the technology will actually have demonstrable business value and impact, then that's a great way to start.
And I would add to that by saying it was a Monday evening, I was having dinner with a bunch of friends, and one of them works for Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, 250,000 employees worldwide. And he was going on and on about, AI.
Right.
And he was talking about, I guess, Meta with the goggles and the gloves where you can actually feel I said, well, all right, so you've never skied and you put these gadgets on and it makes you feel great and gives you a skiing experience. Well, what else can it do? And he said, we're working on that. And I said, well, what's the practical business application? Because I pushed him and he said, well, one thing you could do with this is it would help with onboarding. And he said, instead of getting people, to sit down with a new employee, and, you go through, litany of things that you need to do. He said one application very straightforwardly that you could use this technology for onboarding. He said, but we're looking at other other ways to use it. So Justin, you ask an excellent question. So much of this stuff looks like flavor of the month, and then it fades. And so I think the trick is, well, okay, that's great. Well, what's good about it? And how can we use it? And I think this class is going to help you figure that out.
A couple of the teams last semester actually introduced, new technologies as part of their change in their business model. And I thought that was very creative. So you'll have an opportunity to do that if you want to.
Awesome. Thank you.
Other questions?
If there are no more questions, I think that this will bring us to the end of our event today. And I would love to express my sincerest gratitude to Professor Albin and Professor Farina for sharing their invaluable experience with us and insights. I believe, and I'm sure everybody in this room had a great time. We learned a lot. Thank you very much. If anyone is interested, you still have time to enroll for in BUS 9797 Leading Digital Transformation course. And again, thank you very much, Professor Albin, Professor Farina, for being with us today.
Thanks for organizing this. You did a very nice job.
Indeed.
Thank
Indeed.
you.
Excellent questions from everybody.
Very good.
Thank you
Thanks,
all
folks.
for your participation. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
very
Go tell your friends.
Yeah, sure.
Take
And
care.
Professor Albin, sorry to keep you awake that late.
Okay.
Good night of sleep.
It was a very interesting hour. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
coming
much.
in.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Professor.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye-bye.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.